मस्ती भरे मन की भोली सी आशा, चांद तारों को छूने की आशा, आसमानों में उड़ने की आशा। दिल है छोटा सा, छोटी सी आशा, मस्ती भरे मन की भोली सी आशा, चांद तारों को छूने की आशा, आसमानों में उड़ने की आशा। दिल है छोटा सा, छोटी सी आशा।
Hello everyone, it's 5:32. We'll get started with the webinar. Welcome all of you to this webinar space. I know you have had a long day. Still after that you chose to come and learn here. Thank you so much for that. My name is Elizabeth Samuel. I work with the Firki team as a senior manager with the in-service vertical. And I and Navya from our team will be hosting this webinar today. Navya, if you can also introduce quickly.
Hello everyone, my name is Navya and I also work with the Firki team as a course designer and I'm based out of Gurgaon. Over to you, El.
Thank you, Navya. I'm Anuradha. We're going to get started with the webinar. Give us 1 second. So we're going to go through first the quick pre-webinar presentation. Awesome. Give me 1 second as I share my screen. Awesome. So then you know a little bit about both me and Navya. So it'll be great if you can type in the chat box your name, where do you come from, and what is the current role? Name, city, and the current role that you are in. So that we can also know a little bit about each other. Let's take the next 30 seconds to quickly do that in the chat box. Thank you, Neha ma'am, for getting us started. We have people from Chandigarh, we have principals, we have Teach for India fellows, teacher from Kolkata. Lot of educators, different parts of the country. That's the beauty of this webinar space, that we can see educators from different parts of the country, even the world. Amazing. Keep the responses coming. As you type in the responses, read also others' responses to see where different educators are coming from. This webinar is about Guardians of Tomorrow, ensuring child safety in classrooms. This is a quick pre-webinar presentation. Some of you are joining us on Zoom, this portal, and some of you are joining us from the YouTube channel. So then the YouTube also is going to be live telecasted. As we begin this space, I also wanted to take you through some features of Zoom, which you already know. To start with, there is a mic button. It'll be great if you can keep it on mute so that we can hear the speaker very clearly. If you want to share something, definitely unmute and share. We have the video button. Click on it to keep the video on. Click on it again to keep the video off. If you have bandwidth issues, we request you to keep the video off. We have the chat button, which you already made use of. If you have any questions that you want to ask, please ensure that you type it in the chat box. We'll be collating all those questions and responding to that through the webinar or at the end of the webinar. With that, I'm handing it over to Navya to take us through the speakers' details and about this webinar.
Hello everybody. Welcome to the webinar. Just a second. We are your hosts, Navya and Ellie, and we will be your guide for this webinar to help you navigate through it. We now come to the introduction of our speaker today. Kavya Bola is a dedicated gender and sexuality facilitator, as well as the founder of Tara Foundation, where she champions social development projects with a focus on gender equality and inclusive space building. With a remarkable strength in creating impactful programs, Kavya has spearheaded initiatives such as Maybe Curie, a program fostering gender equality in Haryana, and has developed comprehensive sexuality education curricula for adolescents through projects like Astitva. Let's hear more about Tara Foundation. Tara Foundation is dedicated to nurturing a gender equal world by challenging biases in our social, cultural, and emotional landscapes. Tara Foundation is committed to sparking conversation about gender and sex education bringing these critical topics to the forefront of everyday interactions. They recognize the importance of providing alternatives to gendered conditioning through reflective workshops, sensitively developed curricula, sustainable support structures, and accessible resources. As we move to the webinar, I have a few requests of the participants as well. We request you to keep your cameras on for effective interaction. To avoid disturbance, we request you to keep your mics off unless the speaker asks you to unmute. You can also use the chat box to ask a question, or you can click on the raise hand button to ask questions or to share your thoughts. Participate enthusiastically throughout the session. Coming to the objectives for this session, through this webinar, we will cover topics such as recognizing signs of distress in a student, establishing boundary setting techniques, and addressing instances of bullying and harassment, and enabling educators with knowledge and tools needed to create inclusive, supportive, and safe learning environment for every child. Over to you, Kavya. Happy learning to all of you.
Okay, hi. Am I audible now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Okay. Hello, everybody. Good evening. It's my pleasure that I am here today and I am facilitating this session for all of you. My name is Kavya, and already I think a lot has been spoken about myself and the organization I work with. Um, I would just like to, in short or like in brief, would just like to tell you that basically the vision is the aim actually is to create uh, environments or surroundings and spaces which are safe for children uh like I this is something that I is very close to my heart, and I'm very candid about this. But as a child of abuse myself, facing that in my surroundings, I know how it has impacted me over the course of time mentally. And so that was the vision behind establishing this foundation, that I wanted to speak to the masses, to the children, to the adolescents about themselves, about their own bodies, as well as teaching their peripheral support groups to like teaching them how to build that safe space for the children. And I'm glad that today to see like so many of you joining in this conversation. Um, okay, without any further ado, I think we should just start off. Um, okay, so first and foremost, this whole workshop webinar session is a sort of experiential and more of like your contribution related. So I'm basically a facilitator, and I don't know if you all know the difference between a gender trainer or a gender facilitator. If somebody would like to just like speak for like maybe just tell us if you know the difference between a facilitator or a trainer. Anybody can speak. Actually, the session is like just talking and discussing. So yes, I would love your inputs.
I think the facilitator, the word itself is facilitate, exchange of information, ideas. Facilitator facilitates that, whereas trainer just trains you, very similar to a teacher.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So, as a facilitator, I'm supposed to take you to that journey and like just facilitate that journey for you. And on the other hand, a trainer would just train you in techniques. So this would be like a mixed session of sorts. But yes, I am a facilitator more so. So I hope that you're all comfortable with English. And if and where you feel that there is a problem that you don't understand, or you want me to go slow, please, you can always point me into that direction and I'll take that feedback right away. Okay, so let's start. First and foremost, I request all of you to just close your eyes for a bit. Just like exclude all distractions for a while, and maybe we can just then start. So close your eyes for a bit. Take a deep breath in and take a deep breath out. Take a deep breath in And slowly exhale all your energy from the day outside. Take a deep breath in and now continue breathing with your eyes closed. I want you all to imagine that you are in a room. It has a beautiful closet. You can feel the closet. You can imagine what color it is. Oh, how beautiful. Could be a childhood closet, a closet where you now are based. Your whole family is sitting downstairs and you're feeling happy, you're content, you're listening to all of them, they're talking, chitter chatter, laughter. You enter the closet, you open it, it's beautiful, all your favorite clothes hang inside, things you love, maybe memories from your childhood are inside those closets. You go deeper into the closet, you can walk into it, feel all your clothes, feel all your childhood memories, feel things. Embrace yourself in the feeling that you're feeling right now. It's beautiful. You're walking inside now. It's fur, coats. You're touching it. It's soft and warm. Your lovely blankets. And suddenly, it all disappears. Now you're between coats and the closet is becoming stuffy. It's getting to you. It's hot. You're becoming stuffy. There's no air. You're gasping for air. Suddenly, it's just trying to get out of this place. You hit the closet door. You hit it. You hit it again, 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 and bam! It breaks. You're suddenly in a brighter, in a happier, in a place you feel that you are happy in. Now you're in your favorite place. You can breathe in whatever you're feeling, the scenes you're seeing, however it is. Just breathe in all of it and slowly exhale and open your eyes. Thank you so much for going down this road with me. What I would like you to do is, I'm going to share a link with all of you. It's for a Padlet, and you all can write 5 feelings you had during this whole sequence. So, from the start till the end, whatever you felt in 5 feelings, if you could tell it to me.
Send the Padlet link in the chat.
Yes. So, we're sending a link in the chat. You can just open it and you can write down your 5 feelings. If anyone's facing the problem, they could just tell me. Okay. You all have to write about 5 feelings you felt in this whole sequence. And you can actually write from the start till the very end. So you don't have to talk about the feelings you're feeling like right now or just like towards the end of the sequence, but maybe like all of it.
To type in, you can just click on this plus sign and then you can just type.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing, everybody. So some feelings that I'm seeing are lonely, anxious, mixed. Okay. Yes, that's a lot of emotions actually to go through, like it's a roller coaster of it. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. I think if you've all written it, maybe we can move on. So let's just talk about it. In the time when I think you all can also read each other's. Yes. So yes, it was being euphoric, and then suddenly there was a lot of uh difference in what you were feeling, and then you felt fatigue, you felt sadness, there must be anxiety, there must be distress that what's happening. So yes, it was definitely a roller coaster of mixed feelings. Thank you so much. Okay, so I just wanted to know what were the parts where you felt that you were happier. Let's say you felt calmer, relaxed. What were those phases where you felt that? Anybody, if you would want to answer, or you can type it in the chat box. Okay, when you enter the closet, correct. So as soon as you enter the closet in the beginning, perfect. Yeah, perfect. So very much in the beginning, when you entered the closet, that's when you felt very safe and happy and excited to see all of those things. You felt relaxed in a way. But moving on to the second sequence where you were surrounded by the coats and the fur and all of those things, you felt extremely stuffy and might have felt anxious, uncomfortable, distressed. Those were the feelings that you might have felt. And then even when the last sequence came, so I just wanted to ask you all that as soon as you were able to break out of the closet, do you think that the happiness that you initially felt going through the journey that came back, or was it not as yet back? It was not the same. Okay. By the end, you were claustrophobic. Thank you so much. Not the same. Yeah.
There was relief, but that relief is not equal to happiness, really.
Perfect. So that there was a release. Definitely there was a release, but it was not equal to the happiness you all felt initially. So this was a small walk-in into what I wanted to make you a little, maybe a little bit of empathy for a child or for a person who's facing distress. So when you walk into the initial, like we nowadays talk a lot about the same, we talk about child abuse, we talk about harassment, we talk about uncomfortable spaces. Where today we are here to talk how can we be the guardians of a safer classroom. Where it starts is by understanding that a child who enters into the situation and faces distress does not feel the same kind of happiness again. They cannot return to that earlier part of their happiness. And that is why, and therefore, it is extremely important that we actually act upon it after this webinar also. We work upon it because a child who's entered into a distress situation will never come out as the same person. And definitely that also limits a lot of opportunities and things that they see in life. A lot of insecurities develop over time because of such things. So I feel that you, today, all of you who are here, each one of you has that power to make either the child face or see feelings, how they enter, how they as they entered into the closet, versus you can also make children feel the way they felt in the midst. And I also wanted to extend another thought here, that a child who, now after this workshop you will be working with your spaces, and you will be implementing these activities and things that we're doing today. So I would request you to also be empathetic to the fact that you will not be able to just do this, and while the abuses and all of these things might come out, but you might not be able to get the child back to the A place, that A point that they started. So that's just an empathy reminder for all of you that it will take time, but yes, there will be a happier space. And when they walk into it more and more, it will eventually probably heal. So, yes, thank you so much for helping me out with this first phase of it. And thank you so much for being so candid about your feelings. Okay, so I think we can move on. And what I want you to do is, maybe if you all could have a paper and a pen or a pencil, whatever works for you. So maybe like two different shades or something like that can be brought in. So, like a paper, a pen, and a pencil, a paper, crayons, paper, anything. So yes, does everybody have that available with them? Okay, once you're ready, we can start. Perfect. Okay, I love this crowd. You all are very quick and like just ready with the whole learning process. I love it. Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do is, at the center of that paper, we're going to draw ourselves. Okay, so imagining, like, if this is my paper and this is the center of my paper, so I'm going to draw myself in this space here at the center. Okay, let's do that. It could be a silhouette of your body, it could be your body entirely, how you see yourself, but it's not a drawing competition. So you can just ease with it. Okay, I see a lot of people being done, but I see a lot of people being doing also. So I'll wait for another 45 seconds. Okay, perfect. Let's move on. So now what we're going to do is that now that we have our image at the center, we're going to start by putting all the body parts on our body where we feel that I'm not okay if somebody touches me here. Okay, so we're going to put all those body parts. So you can either, if you have a pencil and a pen, so you can maybe start by putting shades of pencil or crosses, something like that. If you have a red color, you can color it red. And just think about everything from your head to your toes. Do not leave your earlobes. Do not leave the back of your elbows. You can all take some time. I'm going to give it to you. We'll all take maybe 5 minutes to do this. 3 minutes, maybe. Let's start. And I'll request everybody to go really deep. Don't just mark things that come to your head in the. This is just a first call that this is not good touch and bad touch. So we do not want to know about what is good touch and what is bad touch. No, what I want to know is where you feel uncomfortable if somebody touches you. Thanks for sharing. I just want you all to put it on your drawings and not to share because I think that will make you all more feel more safer that way. So yes, if you want to share, you could. If you don't want to, you can just put it on your paper itself. That's why I asked you all to get your own papers. Okay, we'll just wait for another minute. Okay, I think another 30 seconds. Okay, let's move on. So now that we have all the red or let's say the cross body parts, uncomfortable body parts, let's talk about body parts where we actually feel comfortable when somebody touches us. Like not us, but me, let's say. Like if I, Kavya, feel that I'm okay if somebody touches my head. So that's something that I will feel is my green part, or like a what do you call it? Like maybe a pen wherever you can put a tick or something. However you like, so you can do that. I hope that the activity is becoming clear to all of you. This segment is yes. If there's any confusion, you can just speak out, and I can revert. Like I can just revert. Thank you so much, everybody. So right now we're marking all the body parts on our body where we feel that I'm extremely comfortable. So like maybe Kavya is extremely comfortable if somebody touches her wrist. So yes, I'm okay with the wrist. Maybe I'm okay with this part. And it's an absolute possibility that maybe Navya is not okay with somebody touching her wrist. So that becomes Navya's not her green part basically. Yeah. So yeah. Okay, another minute. Okay, maybe now we ease into it. So when we did this green and reds, or maybe let's say uncomfortable, comfortable, the distinct parts, are all your body parts covered, or are there some parts which are just still left? Or are your all body parts either green or red or tick or cross? Are there parts that are left that are neither of the two? A few. Yes. So there are a few parts in our body that might be left. And let me ask you, why are they left? What is it that they were neither a green part nor a red part, or neither a safe or unsafe part? Come on, this session is based on discussion. You see, I'm not speaking a lot.
What I think, Kavya, is while I was doing this exercise, I wasn't even looking at things like my eyes or nose and so on. And so they kind of got left out at the end. Although you kept talking and giving us a heads up, for me, body parts kind of started with hair, forehead, cheeks, and then went downwards. But I realized that things like fingers, eyes, nose, these were things I kind of just omitted from my mind map. So that's why they got left out.
Yes. So a lot of times these are parts that we either forget about altogether because we do not consider them as, let's say, the primary hurtful spots. Maybe like you nobody can hurt my or harass me through my eyes. Yeah. Nobody can poke it and harass me. So I think maybe that's one of the reasons why that's happening. Okay, let's hear for more reasons, maybe. Anybody else? Any guesses would also work. Okay, yeah, that's true. Nobody is going to come and hurt your nose, touch your nose and hurt it. That's true. So what happens that in our minds also, what we do is tend to create this we tend to create this separation of our body parts. Now, if you sit down and think about it, we actually create some body parts that are based on how somebody can, when we talk about it, you actually base your body parts on where all or how somebody can actually hurt you through those body parts, and distinction into body parts that cannot be hurt because maybe they're either internal organs or their organs, right, where you don't think that they're not sexual in any way. Now if you actually look down into your chart, you'll also find this thing that mostly body parts that you have thought about instantly are the body parts that are either sexualized over the course of time in some way or the other. So another thing, maybe what we can do is now put all the parts that you have not marked as of yet as maybe yellow body parts. Let's say if you have a pen or a pencil, maybe like those can be question mark parts. So can we do that? Can we like look at our question mark parts right now? This one will be harder because now you're actually going to think about it.
Kavya, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah.
The prompt, sorry.
Okay. So right now we're doing our question mark or the yellow parts of our body, which are parts that we rarely think about as being either harassed or, you know, we think it outside the boundary of harassment, or there's some confusion that we don't know how we feel about this part maybe. And while you're marking it down, I would also like to maybe like bring it towards your thought that maybe these are the parts that we actually don't know, but who touches and what we feel. So it might be like, let's say you don't know about your earlobe, maybe, or your nose probably. Okay, let's take the nose for an example. If somebody's pointed out the nose as a question mark part, maybe if like my husband or somebody that I want to touch, maybe if they're going to be touching my nose, it's like a cute feeling or a nice feeling to have. But if somebody like, let's say, my neighbor would be touching my nose, I don't think that's going to be a very good feeling. So maybe these are also parts that we don't know about because they're situational. Yes. So I'm going to call these situational body parts, wherein, they are also dependent on if and when they, and who, or based on who touches it. Yes. So like that. Okay, perfect. So now, by this whole activity, you must have guessed what we're trying to do. So would anybody like to tell me what is happening in this whole scenario, or why are we doing this activity? Anybody?
Kavya, I think it's about boundaries, or how we can bring about the idea of boundaries uh, in a classroom. That's what I am kind of piecing together.
Yes, thank you so much. You're absolutely on target, on point, that it is actually to teach the children and ourselves, it's like our own selves also, about personal boundaries. So now, in this whole congregation of all of us, right now, I'm just going to take an example by name. Okay, like Kanika ma'am and let's say Anuradha ma'am might not have the same charts. That's a possibility, right? That they will not have the same body charts or same personal boundary charts as all of the others, or as similar to each other. And why is that? Because this whole concept of personal boundaries, right? That I will have my own personal boundaries and you will have your own personal boundaries. She will have her own, he will have, they will have. All of them will have their different personal boundaries because it is so personal. Now, the reason why we put around boundaries across, like let's say, for example, our own house is either to prevent animals from coming in, or either to, like, let's say, mark it as my space. Yes, very similarly, what happens that our personal boundaries are also for two things. One is to mark my own space, that, okay, this is the space I am occupying. So, this is a space you cannot meddle with. If you are working with like really younger children, really younger, I think what you can also help them to understand is that it's like a bubble. Okay. So I am right now in a bubble, and this is my boundary. Okay. This bubble is my boundary. If somebody tries to jump into my bubble, what will happen to the bubble? It'll go pop, right? But if I'm somebody who says that, okay, hi, can we, maybe talk, or slowly, like maybe have our bubbles together, maybe slowly. Have you ever played with bubbles? You'll see, if you just burst one bubble with another, either if you clash them, they burst. But if you actually slowly melt them in, it actually forms a bigger bubble. Yes, or two bubbles stuck together. So something very similar. I think this is something that you could actually relay also maybe in your examples that how when we want to step into somebody's boundary, asking about it and stepping into their boundary would be a comparatively easier job without hurting them than to just go get into there and step into their bubble. So I think when we talk about this red, green, and yellow touches of our body, they're also a lot dependent on what we are assuming our boundary is. I'm not telling you that, okay, red zone, red zone, red zone. No, that's not what I'm doing. I'm asking you, do you feel uncomfortable? Now let's talk about why this activity is important. It's definitely one, it is important to teach the child that if somebody touches you in the zones that you have marked as red, you have the authority and you have the right to come to me and tell me. Second, you're also telling the child that if you are marking these boundaries on your body, then anybody, even for that matter, your own friend, will have to ask you to step into your zone. And thirdly, you're also telling the child that, see, listen, and not just the child, I think it's me telling all of you also that all of these boundaries are shiftable based on the person that we are interacting with. So it is not necessary that on my chart, if I've marked let's say my shoulders as green, it does not mean that it is going to be green for everybody. It is a possibility that I feel comfortable if let's say my mother touches me here or my brother touches me here, but I'm absolutely uncomfortable if my cousin brother touches me here. So the line is very fine, but it is absolutely okay to shift it and sift it through. Okay. What I want you to do, all of you, is make a circle right outside your body. Let's make a little smaller though, very close to the body, like a cocoon. And in that cocoon, we're going to write down names or relationships with people who we feel we are okay with touching our red parts. Now another question comes, the sare red parts, all the red parts, because all the red parts are also not ranked similar. Yes, all the red parts are also ranked differently. Maybe my lips will rank a higher red part than, let's say, my cheeks. Okay. So if I'm not comfortable, let's say why do I write that in such a small circle? Yes. So in the smallest circle, we're going to write down of people who can touch our maybe like let's say high degree red parts. Parts that we consider as extremely red. And if you're not comfortable for yourself also touching them, then it's okay. If you're comfortable with yourself touching them, you can write your own name at least. Now, right outside that circle, we'll make another circle. In the second circle, we're going to write names of people or relationship of ours with them, which who can touch our low degree red parts. Now that's the point. Like what do you consider as high or low degree? That is still questionable. I don't know what you are considering as high degree or low degrees, but that's absolutely fine. So your low degree red parts who all can touch, that comes into the second circle. Now, this is the most important part. There is space outside the circle, which has no circle per se, but it's an open space. I want you all to write names. So this is your own thing, your own paper, however you want it. We are going to write names of people who we feel we are not okay at all in our known circuit or circle who can touch us on any of the parts. Not even our green parts. We're also going to, so strangers are somebody that are not, definitely it is something that children should be putting outside their circles for sure. But now is an important part where you're also going to see that who do they put outside their circle? Because at this point of time, you'll realize if the child is facing any form of distress by the kind of names that they have put outside their circle. So, this activity or segment is also extremely important for another reason, that this is an identifier or a marker for you to identify if the child is facing any sort of distress or issue. Okay. Another thing, when we make these circles, these are called as safety circles. So what do safety circles entail? Now, you have to make sure to understand in the smallest circle, which is as close to me, I'm writing the names of people or anybody who I'm okay with touching my high degree red parts. Make sure that when you see, every child will have their own comfort level. Even if a child who's 4, 5, 6, 7, regardless of age, they might be putting up a whole, they might be saying that, okay, my father, my mother, my mama, my mommy, they might be putting that. So you cannot discourage that also. Because at this stage, they are there. But now, during this activity, now when we go to the next circle, you're going to say that, okay, now we're going to work on people who can touch our red parts, but low degree red parts. And maybe a good way to also do this would be to, let's say, what do you consider as high degree red parts now? What, according to you, are high degree red parts? So, let's say when you think about it and where you feel the most irritation or uncomfortable or sad or bad or irritated, angry feeling, if somebody touches on you on those parts, and by somebody we mean, let's say, anybody except your mother or father. Let's start by that. That wherever you feel that extreme irritation if somebody else will touch you, those are your high degree red parts. Where you feel out of your family some deliberate, or if not family, let's say that this is a very, very thin line between red parts and, like children thinking that a lot of times what happens in cases in schools when we do this workshop, a lot of children paint their whole legs as green because they're at that stage where they feel that they're extremely comfortable with somebody touching them. But now when I talk to them and ask them that, okay, what if I hold your leg like this? Do you feel okay about it? Do you feel nice about it? Then they say, no, we don't feel nice. So a lot of times children do not understand the depth or the kind of activity that we are doing, and their current right now what you all marked as your yellow part, probably they would be marking as their green body part. So that's something that you will have to tell them and push them into understanding the situation we are talking about. So these are the four. This now what you've done is like a personal boundary activity. You've also done what do you call it? Like you've done a safety circle activity, and I feel that doing this activity with a younger group also works as much as it works with 10 years and older. So if you are trying to, definitely they would not, maybe they won't mark their bodies with red or blues. Maybe you can think of alternatives like doing body paints and things like that, which can be helpful if you are dealing with a younger group. So yes. Um, okay. Maybe if this is clear of what we did and why we did, so personal boundaries is very important for making them understand that it's very similar to how they have this paper where they have made their personal boundary. Their friend also would have his personal boundary or her personal boundary, and would they be like if they clash into each other, if they try to slap them, poke them, do these things to them, then the bubble might break and their circle might get hurt in comparison to if they play with each other and ask each other that, okay, can I hold your hand, or can I should we play for some time? Maybe if they do that, maybe that will also help them. Yes. Okay. I'll answer these questions later, maybe. That's a good question though. Okay. Okay, apart from that, okay, let's move on. Maybe um I think we're talking a lot about right now. We're talking about personal boundaries. We're talking about things that children should do, things that as like you as guardians should do. But what I'm going to encourage you now is to actually dive a little bit deeper and think of a situation where you were caught in an uncomfortable classroom situation, where you felt uncomfortable. I'm talking about maybe something in your now career experience, earlier career experience, somewhere where you might be with the kids and you might have felt uncomfortable, or them having, let's say, like intervened into your personal boundaries. Let's all think of a situation. It's anonymous. You can think of it. There's a Padlet there. You can easily go to the Padlet and write your situation down. We won't be able to see any names. So yes, if you want to maintain the anonymity. So anytime that you have felt uncomfortable or felt that your personal boundaries have been um, tampered with, it's great if you want to type it out because I don't think we were able to see names. Yes. So if there's a plus sign there, just click on the plus sign and you'll be able to type out. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for sharing these. I I just wanted to ask all of you that would you actually tell me maybe like a thumbs up would do, or if you want to talk about it, anybody, the feelings that you might have felt in that situation, do you think that those were very similar to the phase of the imagination that you felt in the myths? Were the feelings similar to those when you were when let's say unintentionally, intentionally, unintentionally, when you were made to feel unsafe? Okay,
Kavya,
at
I'd
that.
say no.
Mm-hmm,
Because in the closet, it was a feeling of being trapped. But in this case, there is an awareness of the discomfort. So you know
mm-hmm.
you can ward it off. It may stay with you in your mind, but you know you can ward it off. So I don't think it's the same. There's some distinction that I can make in my
Yeah,
mind.
yeah, I think that's a very good point to be brought out, that in that situation you were alone in a way and you were feeling trapped in this situation. You know it's happening to you, but in a way, is it like, is it you? Right now, I think we're all part of this also workshop because definitely we want to talk about children and their safety, but also we know that the kind of unsafety that they themselves create for us or anybody else. If I might explain my argument a little better, the kids at this stage, or we're all learning this thing because the kids do not know about their personal boundaries as well as the other people's personal boundaries. I have worked with numerous kids over time, and I understand that these are not things that they are taught in their homes. Rather, more their homes are a little more detrimental to the concept of personal boundaries, because when we are at home, we are not really um questioned or asked a lot. Like now things might have changed, but in the earlier times, or like let's say even now, like nobody thinks of a kid as taking their own decisions. And that's why a lot of times what happens, that we teach kids good touch and bad touch and all of these things, but when let's say like a relative comes over and we just let them grab the child, pick them up, kiss the child, even if the kid at some point of time might face discomfort, show discomfort, but we still are at that age or stage where we still do not take it into as much consideration. So the kids also learn this behavior from their homes, and when they come to school, they're actually just implementing the observed behaviors that they have done and that they have seen in their home. So now, when they come here, all that, like, I give this example to children that, it might be really fun to, just walk and see your friend and just give them like I think this thing is called a tapli. So they just give a tapli like that and move around, right? So I'm sorry. Okay. So yeah, I mean, like it's very easy to just do that, or it's very easy to just, like even when we were in school, even now in schools, what happens, like a lot of kids get bullied by their own peers themselves. Like, and why is the reason? The reason is that they are actually implementing behaviors that they have seen at home in one way or the other. So it is very important to teach the children about these personal boundaries, because as like you said, that there is now you have that awareness of discomfort. So if not today, at least tomorrow you will be able to speak about it, or if not speak about it, you will be able to actually implement this learning that you have done here into your tomorrow situation. So that is the reason why I felt that it's very important to also think about it this way, that a lot of times children do certain behaviors that do make us feel uncomfortable, but still and yet we treat them as children, and we just like, I remember myself being in a situation like that, and definitely I was embarrassed, and I was in a boys school, and this sort of a situation happened where everybody started the kids started fighting amongst themselves, and suddenly like there was like a whole crowd coming to talk to me, and then somebody by intention or unintentionally touched my breasts and my body, and then suddenly I felt extremely uncomfortable, and the kind of resolution I might have been able to give, I was not able to give because I was in such a hurry to just exit that situation, because I knew that they had seen that they had made me uncomfortable, and I wanted to leave that situation. So I'm not sure if this has ever happened or something like this might have happened to you, but this is based out of my belief like that. Okay, on that note, thank you so much all for sharing and actually discussing this. I also wanted to talk to you all about, it is going to get a little bit deeper, and it's not to point out anything, or it's just a self-awareness. I think it's very important to be self-aware about our own acts also. So is there a situation where you have felt that you made the child feel uncomfortable, intentionally or unintentionally? It, you know, okay, maybe we'll talk after this. So yes, please, if you all felt that there was a situation where you might have made anybody feel uncomfortable, please, I would love if you all could share that. I know this is the hardest part, but it's just self-awareness. And it's okay if you don't want to write it on here. It's great because it's anonymous. You can write it here, but if you don't want to write, that's also absolutely fine. But you could write it for yourself on a post-it, maybe. Okay. I hope you're all writing it down somewhere. Okay. Maybe we can move forward. So a lot of times what happens that uh, we're all actually born into a system where we have also seen a lot of, maybe let's say, bullying or unsafety or uncomfortability, and that kind of also, while we are opposing a lot of things, but there are also a lot of things that we have co-opted, as normalcy. So, you know, and this is not to say that any of you does this, but we are now talking about an environment, and somebody in your environment might be doing it, or and these are the ways to actually see if your classrooms are safe or unsafe. So let's say if we I did have in some other sessions have people share stories like where they unknowingly or they just unknowingly asked a child about or if they just didn't ask but they scolded the child for wearing kajal, and they were really upset because at that point of time they felt that that would distract them from their studies, but the way it came out, it was really demeaning the person that had applied the kajal. So that was something that they shared, and it's a very relatable thing because I remember when we were children, then if we used to wear kajal to school, then the principal or anybody, any of our teachers would really berate us. So that was also something that felt, I feel that if I was ever doing a session with those teachers, they might have also maybe said something like that, very similar. But yeah, I mean, there are very, subtle ways that we also do not know. So I think it's very important that now that you are all here, it's very also important to understand that and retrace your words and your actions back in your engagement with the children. It is also very important that you think through the words that we use, our language, our actions, our sometimes it's very um sometimes it's very simple that like when a child does well or something, we hug them, but it would be for us also very good to ask as educators that, okay, are you comfortable maybe I want to congratulate you, can we hug or something like that. I think if you introduce these behaviors in the classroom, then those behaviors can also be taken forward. So I think one major point of this whole discussion I wanted to bring down to asking for consent, even if you feel that it is unnecessary from your like from the children and from your own students. Yeah. So from your students, I feel that it's extremely important that you ask for consent for very simple things. Like rather than just saying that bring my, like, I'm just giving a very basic examples, but bring my copies from the staff room, or bring the signs, those they're kept there, just bring them. Rather than saying that, maybe you could start by saying that, could you do me a favor? Are you comfortable with using sentences like this in your own classrooms? I know that we feel that this is just too much now. Like sometimes one person might feel this is too much, but like in order to teach your children something, we actually try to do something way exaggerated, right? So that they learn the good thing. So I think that's something that we can start doing, and maybe like with our own interactions also, in our own communications also, that can happen. Like if a principal comes into a classroom and sits there, I think what would be, because of authority, you cannot deny them. But we are trying to build a space where, like, let's say if a principal comes into your classroom and says that, can I sit in for a class today? And if you feel uncomfortable, you can just tell them that, maybe like if not today, maybe you can sit tomorrow or something like that. So we're trying to build that kind of a space. But actually, does start from your actions. Okay. Lastly, I think this is the last thing that I would want you all to do is on the chat, if you feel that way, or on the Padlet, however you feel, I would like you all to share ways that you feel that you are making um making your space safe and inclusive. If you could share ways that you are doing it, or ways in which you want to do it, you plan on doing it, and I would want you to do it like individually, like I taking your name, like I, Kavya, would ensure that, and you just need to maybe just say one thing, commit to one thing probably. So just let me say, like I, Kavya, will try to take maximum sessions this year on child abuse? So something that you could promise, like a vow that you could keep. You can do it in the chat. You can do it on the Padlet. I think Padlet would be great because then we can share it with all of you, and you all can take out each other's ways also. Okay, great. I'll be really grateful if all of you could also, rather than just writing, creating friendly environment in the classroom. How so? Like, what what did you do? Like keeping channels of communication open. How? What norms did you establish? Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, circle time is a good idea. It's impossible. It's not actually impossible. It's you all actually do understand the mind of a child because you have also been in the same stage and age. So it's not something that we can actually think like we don't know. We do know, and the best part about today and this generation is that a lot of children do know everything. Like you will go to them with this activity. I also feel that this is why facilitating and being facilitators is more important than being trainers or training them about these things because a lot of children will have a lot of information. As educators, it is our job to, narrow it down and tell them what the correct information is and what is not. So if you feel that when you do these activities, that is why focusing on themselves right now is more important because right now what they are doing is gaining a lot of information, but how much are they applying it to themselves? That is what we're unsure of. Okay. Yeah, that's actually really good. All of you have some great answers. Thank you so much. Okay. Um, Ellie, Navya, do you mind sharing the checklist?
We can share that. I'll send in the chat box.
You can share it on the screen, can you? The checklist?
Yeah, I will do that. Will do that. 1 second.
Yeah. Okay, while Ellie is sharing the checklist that I've tried to make for us for how to have an inclusive space and safe space, I want to talk to you about understanding the signs of distress in a child. So, how would you actually know if somebody's gone through something like this? So, I think the first and foremost thing is you can always start with a simpler activity like this, wherein they will mark out and all. So, that will get them into a conversation. Once you're there, I think where you should now head to is maybe like a personal or an individual touch wherein you can ask children that okay, now that all of us have done this, would somebody like to come and talk to me? You can not now, but these are my office hours. Maybe like give them some office hours for yourself and tell them that okay, you can come to me in between this time and this time because a lot of kids do not want to be recognized in front of their classmates if something like this has happened. They would want to actually come to you separately by either saying that they're going to the toilet or somewhere or the other, and or they'll come to you in recess or whatever. Like you can always plan that time where you want them to come to you. So, and it's going to be a slow process because a lot of children do not come immediately, but they come after some days and time, and it's continuous effort, that's for sure. Another thing, like how do you recognize a child in distress? How do you, it's an open call for everybody, but yes, at any point of time, you can always seek out a child who needs some help. So the first and foremost is you will see like there will be a change in their mood and there will be like a lot of emotional change that you will see. They can either be in different moods altogether. They could be at a stretch of different moods throughout the day. And those moods can be like polarized. They can also be like either like going down into a depressive state, like a very sad state. They're not finding things interesting. They're not enjoying their anything. They're not enjoying playtime. They're not enjoying mealtime. They're not enjoying recesses with their friends. They will look there. So that's about emotions. Actually, you will see that on their face that there's a constant disinterest that they are feeling. There's a constant sadness. You'll see their mouth would be sulking. Okay, or you might see the opposite end of the behaviors, like excessively like. And see, you have to notice these differences over time. It's not like aaj maine notice kar liya, like today I've just noticed it, I know it. No, it is something that you will have to notice over a period of time, let's say a week or two or three maybe, and slowly to understand if a child is actually going through any form of distress. They can be the either opposite of it. They could just be into, let's say, too happy, too chirpy, too trying to gain everybody's attention and bringing it to them. They might get too clingy. So that can also happen. So one side is isolation altogether and depressive state and sad feelings, and on the other hand is like extreme euphoria. They might be feeling too good. They might be just feeling because I think you all know about defense mechanisms. They're trying to hide their feelings and they're trying to like jump out and show a different face altogether of showing themselves as stronger. Okay, and so that the third thing you will have to check for is self harm. If there's any form of self harm, any form, like let's say you might find them beating their desks. There you might find them hitting the wall. You see that they cut themselves, hurt themselves, burn themselves. A lot of those things can happen. Fourth thing, loss of appetite. You can notice children if you have a slight clue, or if you think so, you can notice those things on recess. In recesses, you can talk to the parents about it. If there are any dietary losses, things like that. So yes, that's very much so. It could now again, it could be a dietary loss, or it could be a binge eating episode wherein they eat a lot. They are trying to overcome their feelings. They've suddenly gained a lot of weight or lost a lot of weight altogether. So that's another sign that you can look for. Disturbed sleep. Now, as educators, it's hard to look for that in children, but that's why it's a later stage wherein maybe when you involve their parents and talk to them about it, maybe you can, or if you see the child is turning up shabby, they're turning up not in like not slept and something like that. If they have nightmares, all of those things are definitely a sign that the child is under distress. Apart from these, there are several more emotional, physical changes that you might see in a child, depending on what age they are of. And a lot of girls or boys also hit puberty early if in case they have been sexually abused. Or if they're going under distress, you'll see a different kind of maturity altogether. So that means that the child is facing distress. Now we're constantly calling distress, distress, distress. What is distress? What all kinds of distress are we talking about? So it could be an emotional distress wherein they might be facing any sort of emotional problem at home, parents with the parents, with them with their identity at this point of time, or anything like let's say fights at home, or if they don't have a suitable climate of upbringing at home, if they're being beaten at home, if the violence at home, all of those things. So that's an emotional distress that they might be facing. It might be sexual distress in terms of they might be facing a lot of distress by probably being them being sexualized either cyber or through cyber, physical, or let's say psychological ways. They could be being followed, stalked, or however. So that is in a way a sexual way of being distressed. There's also economical distress that we all know of. Children of lower income communities, they often tend to be more aggressive and hyper and less, can concentrate a little bit less. That's because of their economic distress in a way. They're not getting that correct upbringing environment. Another sign that you can definitely look for is, I think, um, engaging in delinquent acts. So, what is delinquent acts? It means that they would want to engage in things which are not appropriate for their age. So, they could be going for drugs, they could be going for it could be drugs, it could be sex, it could be having relationships with people much older to them, or much younger to them. So all of those things are definitely they. And the last sign, I think last but the most important thing as educators, which you can identify, is that if a child is having an extreme problem with their concentration. So if a child is unable to concentrate, so like as children, we do daydream a lot, like lessons, as unfortunate as it is, but lessons do not, they don't bring us, they take our attention. So a lot of children do daydream, but understanding that it's a mixture of all of these combinations, I think it will be pretty visible for you to see. You can you can also notice angsty, fidgety movements in their body if they're constantly feeling anxious. They could be drumming they could be doing drumming their fingers. They could be just twisting their pen. They could be just constantly putting their hair behind. They could be looking down all the time. They could be doing this to their hands. So these are some body movements that you can catch, and non-verbal ways of communication that you can catch and see if something is wrong with them. Yes. Apart from this, definitely, I think one thing that I also wanted to speak to you all about is that as the guardians, or let's say as the educators of these children, a lot of times what happens that we tend to um, diminish the kind of suffering that they might be having. A lot of times that happens because we tend to feel that, oh, we've gone through the same phase, so what? So like a lot of them that might be happening to us, that I faced the same situation, I didn't do it this way, I got over it, and things like that. But I think it's extremely important to also understand that the children are living under different circumstances now, and a lot is very different for them. They are more aware, most definitely, than us. So definitely it is much more important to be empathetic towards their uh, plight. And also, like, maybe as educators, not diminishing any instances of bullying, or any instances where you have heard that a child might have hurt another child in any way, verbally, physically, or emotionally. I think taking an action on that would be great. I'm just going to share a very small checklist with all of you, and maybe you can just go through it and see how we will also be forwarding you these resources, wherein you will be seeing of what all what like you will have these activities, the uh, a safety circle activity, the personal boundaries activity, and you will also have a checklist, and you will also have a small leaflet on understanding the signs of distress. Navya, could you just share the checklist once, if it's possible?
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll also attach that in the mail after the webinar.
Yeah.
We've sent it in the chat box, the both documents.
Okay, perfect. So yes, I think they're in the chat box for you all, and we've also given a number for the organization. Sorry, a mail for the organization. So just in case, or there's an Instagram page also that we run, and you can just click on the link there itself, and you can follow it. So we do keep putting up these activities that you can do for different things, not just for not just for teaching children about personal boundaries, but also way beyond, like talking to them about puberty and all of these little things. So there are little tips and tricks on everything. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. Okay, so I'm open for questions. Before questions, I would just like to say another thing, that I would request you all to actually do this activity in your schools or educative spaces wherever you're working, because it will also bring out a lot of distress that the children might be facing, which you might be unaware of as such right now. Also, confidentiality should be made a big part of it, because the child needs to feel safe, that you will not, and like if they're not feeling safe with the parents and also you will need to ensure that that's a confidentiality that you do keep. Okay. And personal boundaries can change with time. And we are just right now, we've just done, because of the paucity of time, we just did our physical boundaries. But these boundaries do apply to even visual, like if somebody's stalking you, watching you, things that you are uncomfortable with. So even those things you can include in these things. Yes.